we can go ahead and kick things off and get started. Hello, hello. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. My name is Courtney Cordova, and as you can see on the screen here, I'm Product Marketing Manager at vCom Solutions, and my lovely co-host here.
Hi, I'm Darrin Good, Technical Solutions Executive with vCom, and happy to be here.
Awesome. So before we actually hop into the content for today, I just do want to take a quick second to kind of give some instructions about Zoom webinar. So in case you haven't been on here before, it does auto mute attendees. But as you can see from Jeffrey's awesome example already, feel free to utilize the chat. We want this to be interactive. If you guys have questions, we're trying to leave about 10-15 minutes at the end, but of course, ask them along the way. Feel free to raise your hand. We have some little abilities to raise your hand there, and I'll be looking out for that while Darrin's speaking, and Darrin will look out for that while I'm talking today. And we also have a Q&A section too. So you'll see in your controls Q&A, and that's actually really helpful as well. If you do have a question along the way, it'll flag both of us as the hosts, and then everybody can see that answer if responding, or we can respond to the crowd together over voice or via chat. So feel free to utilize any of those functions today. And if for whatever reason you do want to talk or be off of mute, let me know, and I have the power to unmute you. I'm happy to do that too. That's just a webinar setting. I swear it's not us being extra controlling or anything like that. That's just the standard how it goes. So quickly wanted to run through that. And without further ado, we can hop into the content, which, as you can see, it looks like Andrew confirmed for me. Everybody should be able to see my screen. Today's topic, cyber resilience, simplify, strengthen, and succeed with smarter security. So the actual agenda items for today, obviously going to be introducing vCom Solutions and talking a little bit about our product, our software product, vManager, and the power behind vCom really is what we call it, or our secret sauce, really kind of our amazing application that ties into product IT lifecycle management. And then, of course, we're going to get into planning and procurement and how this all relates to cyber resilience planning for prevention and for recovering. So I'll be kind of taking the first top part of this call to talk about vCom, introduce you to us, who we are, what we do, one of our lovely products, and then Darrin will take it away with the actual cybersecurity resilience topic and deep dive for that today. And that will be the bulk of the time. Don't worry, we're not going to take too much of your time introducing ourselves because I know you're all here for the good stuff, which is cybersecurity. So this is really the vCom kind of philosophy a little bit. Companies have reached a crossroads, adapt and evolve or fall behind. And really this is just a fancy way of saying this is what vCom aims to do every day, is to help you adapt and evolve. We are an entire team of 200 plus employees here, really rallying behind our customers and sitting at their side of the table and trying to be partners with you all in the crazy world that is managing technology and IT for businesses. And getting stuck in the status quo is one of the reasons why we all have jobs here at vCom Solutions. And the status quo just being the original kind of old school, harder ways to do things where everything was very analog, nothing was really automated, a lot of it's manual, a lot of it's time consuming, a lot of it is wasting money because it's lacking visibility. All of these different things, really, you can see here, let's face it, managing technology and assets and expenses is no picnic. And that is true indeed for all of you, I'm sure, who are joining today, who live in the IT world with the legal emphasis. You know that things are difficult. There's outdated old ecosystems, plus you have to reference a million of them. And really just the way that IT telecom for businesses is structured is kind of set up so that you lose. And that's because they want you spending more money. They don't want you to have the clarity, because if you have the clarity, you know where you can cut costs and spend less with different vendors and providers, and things like that. So really vCom exists, and our whole kind of reason for being, so to speak, is to help mitigate that, to move away from the status quo in many different areas. But our main three values are definitely with saving you time, providing you cost savings, and giving you powerful, powerful visibility and information so you can make better business decisions. And in the status quo as it stands today, there is not a lot of that. So quick review of our mission statement. vCom's mission statement has remained the same since 2001, so we have been around since 2001. Empower people and companies with the best software and managed services to buy, manage, and pay for the technology in a single place. And that is the ultimate kicker at the end there, providing tons of centralization in one space and place. As I mentioned before, you're talking to multiple reps, multiple people, multiple portal logins. Then there's your team as well. So really giving you guys resources and access in a single spot, single place and solution. So really, this is kind of our philosophy. Oh, excuse me. That looks like the little formatting got a little bit off here, but taking companies from good to great. So siloed, having everything individual, having all the different platforms, again, different account reps to contact, making it centralized, going from sporadic to continuous. Really having business continuity is a big reason for our being as well, being able to help companies with that. Taking it from manual to automatic, automating processes that often shouldn't be manual. They don't have to be. And that's another thing we're really passionate about, going from reduction to optimization. So not only just getting your environment narrowed down to what you need, but optimizing it so it's working the best for you and it's the best solutions and functions for you. And then again, something we're all trying to achieve, I think every day, not just in business, but in our lives, going from reactive to being able to be proactive, which takes support. And we really believe at vCom that takes, us, our software, a group of experts and a team and people and processes to help you in achieving all of this that we have laid out here. So just to kind of give you a quick example of one of our success stories, and obviously today this is more geared towards the legal vertical, and we do work with many, many different law firms and companies, and it is something that we have been since our inception, really. We've worked with Duane Morris here as an example for a very, very long time. It's one among the 100 largest law firms in the world with over 900 attorneys and offices across the US and internationally. So really, when we started working with them, these are just some challenges that they highlighted for us. So multi-site and multi-carrier network infrastructure, lack of visibility into technology spend and inventory, hundreds of invoices, 150 plus, and including all the functions you need to get those paid. And what we were able to achieve by partnering with them is moving those services under vCom management, again, centralizing all of that stuff under vCom and vManager, leveraging vManager for operational and accounting management of IT spend, and then manage migration to a completely new technology, which is another challenge. Aside from managing what you have today, you have to be aware of what's in the market and up to date and how it's going to work for your environment and being able to apply that, which is something I know Darrin is going to get into later when we're talking about cybersecurity specifically. So some other outcomes highlighted here, single invoices for offices. So paring down to the number of invoices that need to be processed down to very minimum, at least one. A single support team nationwide, one person to call, one software to log in, one place to go. You're getting the theme here with centralization. And again, automation. That is a big part of our software. That's a big thing you will see today when we hop into the software, which I'm going to do here shortly in a minute. And one of the solutions that we were able to provide when working with Duane Morris. So these are our main products. Aside from our software that I'm talking about, these are the ways in which we help you. So you may have been hearing, great, this is awesome, Courtney, this sounds so great, but how do you actually accomplish that? And we do that by providing you what we call lifecycle management. So the lifecycle of an IT asset, you may be familiar with some companies, they help you with the expense management piece. They help you with the sourcing piece, or maybe even just giving you visibility to assets. But we call it lifecycle management because we truly help you in all three of those areas. And that's how we have created and defined our products here at vCom. So planning and procurement, solution design, being those large scale products or projects, sourcing, those individual site procurements, contract management. And this is a big focus for today, especially when we're talking about cybersecurity, something everyone is really shopping out there for, or has been for a while, in order to make sure their environment is safe. But we also have the other two here, operations management. So orders management, asset management, and service and support when you're experiencing trouble. So once those assets are procured, day-to-day management, day-to-day repository of them, and getting support on those when you need to do change orders or not having trouble with that service. And then last but certainly not least here is expense management, which is that kind of traditional TEM environment that has been around for a while. So helping you with invoices, accounting functions, and then of course providing you lots and lots of data and analytics on that, because as we all know, getting data and analytics from carriers is not easy to do for sure. And how do we do that? So aside from being able to provide you people process platform, the platform is really the visibility data point across all of these. So as we are working with you across these products, the product vManager, our software vManager, is where you can log in to see activity associated to all of those different things. And it's also, again, going back to that centralization. So one login to have if you need to open that trouble ticket, one login to kick off that procurement request if you need to purchase a new service, one login to go view that invoice and approve that invoice and get it to accounting, right? And not only that, but one login for your teams across IT and finance functionalities. They're all going to the same space and place. So as you're making changes and requests, anyone else who has access to our software vManager would be able to see that across the board, giving your team a centralized place to go as well. So just little quick thing here, a picture of it on here, and it says create a centralized hub for your technology management inside vManager, our proprietary cloud-based software platform. So without further ado, let me just take a couple of minutes to actually hop into the software and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to pull up this window here. So this is our platform vManager. Welcome if you have not seen that before, if you're new to us here. And this is the awesome software product that I've been talking to you about. So when you log in, this is your main hub, your homepage, and you have lots of different options. Find where you need to go quickly using universal search, getting quick links here. We even have a few little dashboard reports at the bottom. So at a glance, you get a snapshot of everything that's happening. But really, if you hop into our bread and butter, the assets, and specifically related to what we're going to talk about today, you have to know all your services and your assets in order to be able to protect them. And believe it or not, even for some of the largest companies that we work with, even just that is a challenge. Or making sure that we have not just a single snapshot, but an ongoing, continuously updated repository that is reliable, that has accurate information, and that it's quick and easy for you to find when you need it. So when we're talking about planning your procurement, I mean, unless you're starting a company brand new from the ground up, which most of you out there aren't, you're working in an existing environment, you need to know what that environment is. And this is really why our assets inventory menu is one of the most popular in vManager. And as you can see, when you are on this page of inventory, everything is divided out by the different technologies. So if I failed to mention that before, quick plug now, we can work across more than just network. We can support you with all your business technologies across mobile, collaboration, cloud, hardware, and SaaS, as well as network. But since today we're talking a little bit more network focused with cybersecurity, I'll stick to keeping over here. But at a glance, this is already easier than, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing trouble. What carriers with that asset? What is the circuit ID? Because I know they're going to ask me when I'm opening that trouble ticket request. I don't even remember the build that has the number to call, right? All of that automatically at a glance is here. You can see the location that it's at, and then you can drill in for more details. So that is really why we're so passionate about being able to support you with procurement, so you can get things into the tool here. Across multiple different channels with procurement as well, and have a single centralized place that is an ongoing, accurate repository of your assets. Because then, as you just saw, I clicked into our DIA service as an example, and now I'm seeing all of the attributes associated. This is our demo platform, so if you were to work with us, you wouldn't see all these different X's. It would be actually your numbers and alphabet here. But yeah, this is what it looks like. And then when I have a request, whether that's a trouble ticket request or an order request, I can go straight into this tool and kick it off from here. And the beauty of doing that too, unlike being on the phone with carriers and such, is you don't have to wait for a confirmation that it was opened. You're in the tool, you open that trouble ticket, it takes you to go open that trouble ticket. And then once it's open, it lives here in tickets. So you kind of get the idea of the beauty of being able to have all of your services in one place. Not only do you know where it is and where it's going or where it's at today, but you can then open requests against it that go straight to working with the vCom teams, and you know it's been picked up, and it's kind of like an instant self-service exchange. When it comes to sourcing, we have different areas for shopping as well here. If you're talking about networks, you would see service options, and you kick off a request again, super easily from here. You can type in the location that you're looking for and type in a little bit of description of what you want and what you need. And then once that request is open, it lives in pricing results. Again, a single centralized tool. You can see what status it's at. You can share it out to the rest of your team or have them log into vManager. So really that continuous streamlined experience in our tool. And then of course, when we're talking about expense management, centralized place for invoices. And there's definitely a lot of power here as well. You don't have to chase the different desks that invoices are coming into or email addresses or worry about if someone on your accounting team moves away, what logins do I have to capture, what invoices are they receiving? So really getting everything in one space in place across the board, across IT and finance functions. That is really what vCom is all about. And as you can see, just from the quick sneak peek I gave you in vManager, you can see how it supports that and provides that. And this is what we mean when we talk about people, process, platform. We have a platform for you to see everything, full visibility and details. We didn't even get into analytics, but there's a ton of those as well. We have people supporting you on your side of the table. They don't care which vendor you go with. We are agnostic. You can choose anyone that you want. All we care about is making sure it's the right solution for you. And then we have processes, being able to open things from here, automate things, especially when you're talking about expense management, automating, creating AP posting files, or when you're talking about requests, getting those automated and open and working and pulling pricing from carriers just right after you click in here and open that up and things like that. So that's really the power of vCom and vManager and what we focus on providing to you out there today. Let me get back to the presentation here. Okay, ready for even more. So now we're going to get into really kind of a little bit more of the specifics of planning and procurement. Darrin's going to take over and talk about how all of this relates to cybersecurity and get into some real world examples and such for you. And Darrin is part of the people that I was talking about. So I do want to emphasize and highlight that when I say experts, these are the people like Darrin that you have access to when working with vCom. He is one of our technology solutions experts. And being able to have access to him today is definitely a big value add for you guys. Make sure you're dropping questions and asking questions if you have them, because he has years and years, decades of industry experience and does this day in and day out. So it's not necessarily just experts in all of the different functions and processes that we provide you, but it's experts in the industry across all of the different technologies that we can support. And so really that is a big win for you guys today. So thank you so much for joining. So you get some time with Darrin specifically. And now I'm going to pass it off to you, Darrin. Let's get in depth.
Perfect. All right. Let's get into this a little bit. So thank you, Courtney, for that. One of the things I really think is important for everybody to know, even though we're going to talk cybersecurity here and how it applies in cloud, and it's not just cyber either, it's really resiliency. We're going to talk about everything has a cost nowadays. We know that. Security is not cheap, and the costs seem to keep going. Where vCom really helps is we help to A, give you time back, B, give you cost back, take some of those things that maybe you're overpaying for, and let's save you some money and then let you reallocate that into maybe the things that you feel like you can't afford today or you're struggling with how to fund those. So that's really what planning and procurement's all about. I'm here as a technical solutions executive. I have a whole team that I work with where we're really here to help solve your problems. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today, I would love to say we're going to solve all your problems in the next 40 minutes, but we're not. But what I'm hoping today is that during this presentation, as well as after this presentation, you ask yourself some hard questions about your organization, and then ask us those questions as well, get our feedback, do some follow-up with us, see what we can provide. So these are the areas that we help with: solution design, sourcing, contract management. We work in all of those areas, just knowing that we can help you with those pieces. But let's get into some nitty gritty here, Courtney. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about resilience planning first, and things we should be asking ourselves. Okay. What's the most important thing to this whole process? It's going to depend, right? What I always like to tell people, when you call me, first thing you should know is that when you become a customer of vCom, you have access to us, and we're here for your assistance. We're not going to charge you large consulting dollars, although, as Courtney said, I am very young-ish, but I have years of experience. I'm here to help. So I'm here to help guide you in those journeys, right? And so what we want to ask is, okay, what's important to you? And there's many things that go into that question. These are just a few of the things that I like to ask people. So what does your cyber insurance look like? One of the reasons that we really have been leaning on this one lately is many of you may have cyber insurance policies, or should I say your organization has them, but usually a CFO or somebody in that department will sign off on a cyber insurance policy and not really ask IT, do you match up to what they're requesting? And so often there's a big void between what you say you have for the purposes of getting cyber insurance and then what you really have. Why that's a problem is obviously insurance companies are paying a lot of money out right now with all the attacks and all the things going on. They're trying to find ways to not pay your money. And so what you really have to make sure of is that if somebody in finance is telling your cyber insurance provider that you have certain things in place, but you as an IT organization does not, then you're in trouble because when it comes time and there's a breach, they'll come in and say, well, show me how you were doing X. And if you say, we don't do X, we didn't know we needed to do that, you may not get a payout. And so if you're banking on that, that's a problem. I'm not going to go super heavy into the others, but just keep in mind, sometimes there's governing bodies in legal, right? There's all sorts of pieces. Maybe you're a law firm that deals with HIPAA, or you've got customers that deal with CMMC, these different frameworks or different organizations. Maybe you've got partners that are requiring certain pieces. You've got executive opinions, right? Everybody has access to magazines and online blogs. That's an issue, right? Because everybody's going to have 35 articles that they read about how they should be approaching resiliency. Industry oversight is a big one. And then, as I said before, security frameworks are important. And I'll get into frameworks as well. Everybody really should have a framework that you follow, whether you're mandated or not. And we'll kind of get into that. So here's some of the frameworks. And without going into super depth, the most popular out here, NIST, GDPR is a little bit more of a European framework, but is definitely important if you've got clients that are overseas or customers that are overseas that are doing business in the States. We still have to follow those, or there can be issues. HIPAA, obviously, PCI for credit cards, CIS. ISO is a big one. It's a big undertaking. And then SOC 1 and SOC 2, especially for privacy, web services, things like that. Do any of these apply to you? That's a good question, right? You need to actually look at that. One of the things I try to get my customers and prospects to look at is even if you're not mandated to follow a framework, pick one. And the reason I say that is because you may not be required to do certain things, but without a framework to follow, you're going to be sticking your finger up in the air and figuring out which direction the wind is blowing and making decisions based on that. It's not really how we want to buy security products and services, right? Would be better to say, hey, I'm going to try to restrict access to my database. How should I do that? Well, just about every framework out there has guidelines on how you should do it. What's required in a policy, what's required in a procedure, things like that. So happy to discuss those in more in depth and really dive in there. But CIS controls and NIST, both very good starting points if you want my recommendation. And what's nice about both of those is they also flow very well into every other framework. And so if you start down a path, you're not like painting yourself into a corner and then having to completely do a 180 later. Everything flows towards some of the bigger pieces out there. Example number one, I like to point out. So these are some things that I would talk to you about on why we would do certain things. Okay. So this first one, I have this house. Do I really want to pay somebody $35,000 to tell me how to break into my house? Well, not when my house looks like this, right? Because I'm just basically throwing money into the wind because there's a million ways to break into my house. I don't need an expert to come and tell me that. Okay. Why is that important in today's discussion? The reason is penetration tests. Okay. Do I like penetration tests? Absolutely. Are they important? Absolutely. But if they're not required by your organization and you are paying 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 grand on a penetration test, can be external, internal, spear phishing, all those things, it may not be the best use of your funding. Okay. Because all they're going to do is tell you about all the holes that you already know you have in your organization. Now, if you're mandated, if you have a customer who's requiring it or your cyber insurance requires it, absolutely, you have to spend the money. But don't then just wait and sit on the results and not move anything forward. Because what I often see is a customer will pay for a pen test, get a result back, and then don't do anything about it. The next pen test rolls around in 6 to 12 months, and all they're doing is you're paying them 20 to 35 grand again for the same results, right? Not a good use of your funding. So, what does vCom recommend instead, right? If I'm not mandated to do it and I have holes in my organization, what should I be looking at? There's some alternatives out there, okay? What things could you look at? Cyber risk assessments, right? Have somebody come in that's going to do very similar things to a pen test, but they're going to do it on a broader scale. They're going to tell you things that can be fixed. And guess what? They're a lot less expensive than a full pen test. Okay. Firewall policy reviews. A lot of you on this call today may have firewalls that you manage. When's the last time you actually reviewed the rule base? Are your firewall rules all documented? Do you know what every rule in your firewall today is for? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? Right? All those things should be done, and it's a very easy way to help clean up your security and spending some money that maybe you could save by not having the pen test this year. Okay. Purple team exercises. Some people are going to say, okay, that's a pen test. Well, it is and it isn't. Purple team is really a combination of red and blue. And what that means is red is your attackers, blue is your defenders. Purple means they're going to kind of do some pen testing, but they're also going to have people right away there to tell you what they found and how to fix it, not just do this deep, dark pen test. Okay. Tabletop exercises, put your stuff to use. If you think you're in good shape, you think your executives understand how your cybersecurity lays out, run it through a pen test. Okay. Um, and then the tabletop really runs you through some scenarios as far as um, we say, hey, this just happened. And you say, oh, yeah, well, we have this product. The tabletop is kind of a gamification, and it comes out and says, yeah, your tool didn't work for this attack. It was looking for a signature. It didn't see it. It just ignored it. The attack continues to happen. Then what, right? That's where we get to find out next steps and how people really understand what's going on. The last one that I think is very important is incident response retainers. Why those are very important. A couple of years ago, we had the SolarWinds breach, right? Where SolarWinds had some issues and it was allowing people into customer networks. The issue with that is that when people called in to get help from incident response companies, there was so much of an overload of the system that people were getting turned away. What an incident response retainer does is gives you a spot in line. There are some that are very low cost, there are some that are high cost. The nice thing about retainers, they give you a place in line with a company that you know and trust. You know it's supported by your organization. And what it also does is you can also take that money at the end of the year and spend it on some of these other things as well. So,
Hey, Darren,
uh,
we do have one question in the chat. So
sure.
can you share more info on how vCom does pen testing? Do we offer ourselves or do we partner with a preferred vendor? Thanks.
Great question. So think of us really as matchmakers in a lot of ways. We do have engineers that can help. But what our job really entails is I would sit down and figure out exactly what you want to do. And then I would bring the table some pen testing companies that do either services or pen tests, those sorts of things. Bring them to your environment. If you want to see two or three, we'll bring a couple of them, right? So what's nice about that is, again, we're all about saving you time and money, right? It seems it always comes down to those two things. Well, you can go out and you can research pen test companies and you can do all that, but it's going to take you hours and hours of research time. Instead, ask us the question. We'll bring them to the table. We'll vet them for you based on certain criteria and do that. So, great question on that. We do not do our own pen testing. I haven't done a pen test in a long time, not my area. However, I do a lot of assessments and have done a lot of assessments as well. So there are certain things that we can do. So, all right. Example number two. I think we know where this one's going, right? Is this a good idea? No. Why? Okay. Unfortunately, this is a lot of people's organizations, right? You've invested in a great endpoint solution, maybe a CrowdStrike, Sentinel One, those sorts of products, Windows Defender, but you don't have investment in SOC as a service or MDR as a service. Okay. So basically, you're blind. If you're not at work and you're not watching your logs or watching your servers, you're in trouble, right? Because they're not going to stop everything, or sometimes it'll alert and tell you that something's going on, but there's a lot of hours when you're not at work. And if you don't have somebody watching your back, that's a problem. So, our answer to that, and this kind of goes to the last question we had, again, we do some of these services, but for the most part, we like to bring partners to the table that are excellent at doing SOC as a service, MDR, mixes of those. And what we're going to do is really look at your environment and go, okay, you have this product and you have this product and this product, and we want MDR services. Well, great. Here's a couple of vendors that we can go to, and they'll come in and they'll show you all these other services that they can provide. Okay. So you bring us, we figure out your criteria, we bring the partners to you. Example number three. All right. I love to show this one. What's wrong with this picture? Right. The human is in the wrong room with the bad thing, right? You've got creatures there. Now, unfortunately, we see these examples. Most of these turn out very bad, right? So how does this apply in the cyber world? No segmentation, right? Unfortunately, today there's a lot of things, and this is again where the frameworks really help. We might have the fox hanging out in the hen house, and we have no idea, right? And maybe the fox is being extremely nice at this moment. So we don't think there's anything going on. This could equate to a old Windows, old Windows NT machine that's running because it has to. It's running the AC system and hasn't been updated in 20 years. There's no reason, just because it's being okay right now, there's no reason for it to be sitting in the same hen house as the chickens. Okay. So there are ways to look at segmentation, and some of the ways that we do that here at vCom, there are products, which I put the vendors at the bottom. If you want to do it yourself and you don't want to engage the services of an organization, we have access to NSX, Microsoft, Zscaler, Fortinet, Cisco. All these areas play into segmentation and zero trust, and we can provide those for you on a services perspective. Maybe you say, hey, I already have a Microsoft enterprise license. Great. We would come and say, are you getting the best price for that? Well, we can help, is we can take that, analyze it, and tell you, hey, we can get you an E5 EA license for 20% less than you're paying today. And you could say, great. And then we execute on it. Now you're saving some money for other services. Or worst case, we come back and say, you're getting an excellent price. Keep doing what you're doing, right? That's really how we come in and do the analysis piece. Now, if you want help doing it and you want help approaching this and how do I do it from a larger perspective, we have other solution providers like TechNet, Quest, Lumen, just a few examples that, again, we would figure out your requirements and then match it up. All right. And then the last one, don't ignore the warning signs, right? Because they're going to be bad things. I think, unfortunately, we want to try to find out what is going to bite us later, right? And if we aren't actively always looking for these little wrinkle spots, we're going to be in trouble. So how does that apply in the cyber side? Vulnerability management and patching tends to be the bane of most people's existence, right? Understanding how often to patch. Does your organization allow you time to do patching? Do you have it on a regular cycle? Do you even know what to patch? Are you following Microsoft guidelines, or do you know what software is running? One of the nice things that I'll kick back to vManager is that we're able to, in our inventory, we're able to track software, hardware, all those things are in that product. And where that really helps you too is if you don't know what's running on a machine, you can't patch successfully because if I'm running a program because I had a user install it, I don't know it's there, but I'm patching Microsoft patches. Great. I'm not vulnerable to that. But this other application might be opening a gigantic hole to an attacker. So we have to make sure we know about every vulnerability. And that's where vulnerability management is a huge piece of all frameworks. It's also a piece that you absolutely need to be doing nowadays, both internally, externally, really analyzing what's going on in your environment. Now, where this also plays segmentation before, again, if I have a machine and I know it's vulnerable to all sorts of things, don't leave it sitting on the same network. Don't leave that fox in the hen house. Okay. Put it behind a firewall in a separate VLAN. Do something with it to keep it locked away. Okay. Sometimes we can't patch. We know that. Okay. If we want to take care of those needs, though, we have all sorts of options that we can get that we can show you at vCom. So we can bring in partners like TechNet. We can provide Microsoft licensing. We can provide Tenable licensing. There's people like Thrive and Rapid7 and WebCheck that will do managed patching for you, manage vulnerability for you. Those are all things that we can provide. And just so you know, these are just a very, very few of what we can provide. So again, we would want to come in, talk to you and say, okay, what's your environment look like? Are you mostly Microsoft? Do you have Mac? Do you have Linux? What's your environment look like? How often do you need to patch? Do you want full patching support? All those things come into our evaluation of the network, and then we'll provide you with what you'd like to look at. All right, so where do we start? Okay, that's a good question. We can help. Okay, so call us, right? Listen, I know everybody on here is probably extremely smart people, and you go into a meeting, you realize you need something, you can go spend the time and look things up. But if you're working with vCom, as many of our customers are, they just kick the things over the fence to us and say, hey, can you do the research for me? Right? Instead of you spending 12, 15 hours a day or a week or whatever you're doing, trying to do all of this research and just get through your daily task list, kick it over to us. We can take 2 weeks of your time and usually knock it out, say a week. Okay. Come back with that. You come back, you now get pieces there. Okay. What are some common topics that we cover? These are all things that we offer. Some of these we may charge for, or some of these we may bring in a partner for, but we can provide all of these things to you, and you can give some really good options. Okay. IT asset management. Courtney showed that in vManager. Absolutely important. If you don't know what kind of machines are on your network, you can't defend it. Okay. We don't know. We got to know what's going on. Cyber insurance policy, we covered that one earlier. If you want some help wading through the documentation of a cyber insurance policy, let us know. We're happy to do that. We'll look through it. We'll tell you what they're telling you you need to have, and then we can work with you to ensure that you do have it, or we can help work with you to provide services that will meet what your cyber insurance policy does. It's better to find out you have a shortcoming well in advance of an incident and fix it then than it is to be trying to figure it out at 2 in the morning when on a Saturday when you had a breach. Okay. We don't want to address it then. Compliance is a service. If you do have to follow a framework and you're mandated, compliance is a service, a great way to get CISO level people with a platform to help you track. MDR and SOC as a service, we covered. Framework selection, I'm happy to talk just framework with you. If you want to talk about which one you should be looking at, let's have a conversation. Consolidation of tools is one that I do a lot of. As we said, time and money, right? I've talked to a lot of customers that I said, hey, you've invested $50,000 a year into a SOC product. How often do you look at it? They say maybe once a year, once a quarter. Okay. I say get rid of it, right? Because it's 50K a year you're not using. Yes, it's collecting all my logs, but I'm not doing anything with it. There are some SOC as a service companies that will come in, provide their own SOC to the service, do the review for you, and give you 20 people to watch your logs for far less money than this product you're paying for today. We can also do that with, I've worked with customers in the past where we've started doing reviews and we found out that a previous reseller sold them 5 different MFA products for different departments that needed it. Why? Probably because there were better spiffs for the back end on whoever sold it to them, right? We don't need 5 MFA providers. Let's consolidate those down. Let's get you the best price for those and then help you simplify your life. Okay. And then finally, OpEx versus CapEx. One thing vCom also does very well is financing. So if you want to buy something outright via CapEx, great. We can sell it to you, one-time payment, move it forward. If you want to buy something more as a service or you want to finance it and you want to make it more operational, let us know. We can do that as well. So we can do that with services or hardware or a mix of both. You just let us know which way you prefer to purchase, and we can provide that. All right. Big message for us that we always like to say. This is one that our CEO loves to talk about, right? And our some of our leaders. It's do something, right? We all get tied up. We all look at things and go, man, I wish I could get to that. Well, unfortunately, the wish you could get to that often leads to the, oh man, I can't believe they breached us through that method, right? So there's always options out there. They're not always costing. Some of them take more time to implement, but they're also either free, open source, things like that. You do have things. The key is engage somebody like vCom, preferably vCom, right? To come in, talk to you, give us a problem you're trying to solve. Maybe you don't have time for it. Let us give you some options for that. Finally, we're going to talk about preparation. Okay. Prepare for the worst. This one is a little more legal focused. I think everybody who has read journals knows that you could pull articles for just about anything out there. Okay. These are some very scary things from 24, rising tide. I didn't want to call anybody out, but there were some very large settlements that went out just in the legal department last year because people were breached. Okay. Only 26 I like the one down below. It's 26% of law firms believe they're very prepared. Okay. That's not enough. Okay. And the average ransom is $1 million. Well, I can guarantee you your security budget is probably not $1 million. So if you want to roll the dice and not invest some money early, the $1 million tends to be a lot more than you will pay for a good security program. Okay. So just know problem's not going away. It's only getting worse. All right. So let's talk about planning finally. Okay. This is the recovery side. Why do we talk about planning? Because inevitably something is going to happen. We hope it's small, right? We hope that we've done segmentation. Okay. But are we ready for an incident? Okay. We're going to walk you through 3 preparedness things. And then you need to really ask yourself these questions. Okay. Business impact analysis. And just know we have very good partners that will come in and do these types of engagements with you and your executives and your people and really help you build these plans out. Again, these are not questions you should be asking yourself at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. And unfortunately, in my, we'll call it short, long career, whatever we want to call it, I've spent way too many hours at 2 a.m. on a Saturday trying to address these. It's not the time anybody wants to do it. Okay. But what if we can't reach our systems? What if, can we still support our customers? What's this going to do to our reputation? Are we at risk of data exposure and are we violating regulations? Okay. If my data gets out, am I violating something? We need to know this well in advance. And I hate to break it to you, but this is not IT's decision. Okay. This is executive level decision. This is data ownership. This is what happens to the organization in the event of a breach. Okay. Because we need to know ahead of time, because again, we can't set budget without knowing what it's going to cost us if we lose it. Okay. Business continuity planning. We talked about the impact, but now we want to talk about what do we need to get back if there's a breach. Okay. And I'm going to say breach, but I'm going to expand this a little bit on the next slide, but we're going to stick with this one for a minute. We're going to talk about things more than just cyber as well. Um, but business continuity planning is in that 2 in the morning issue, what has to be back up ASAP, right? Right away in my organization. Because if somebody tells you email is critical, there better be an executive reason for it, right? Not just, oh, I can't answer my email. No, that is not critical. Okay. Some organizations, it might be, but this is again, decision you have to make early. This second one, I'm really going to dive on. The reason is SaaS. Do we control the system? If you've been watching, a lot of companies are moving to these SaaS providers for their key services. I'm going to use an example of the auto industry. There was one major SaaS provider that most of the auto industry used out there. Unfortunately, they got breached and that site went down for over a week. Okay. There were no transactions being done through that software for over a week. Okay. The question is on the legal side, if you're using a legal SaaS product and all of your data is there and all of your client lists and everything that you do exists in that system, what do we do if it becomes unavailable for an extended period of time? Right? You have to have a plan for it. And you can't just say, oh, we'll just close the doors and tell the attorneys not to bill for a week or two. Right? We know that doesn't work. Okay. So understand where your data is and what's important. That's also going to tie into your timelines. You need to know who needs to be notified and then how are we going to restore service? Where are we going to restore service? Are we paying for it ahead of time? If we say, yeah, we'll just probably spin something up in Azure when that goes out, that's not something we want to be doing again at 2 in the morning, right? We need to have that all planned out and ready to execute when it comes time. And then where do we start? Okay. So incident response. Okay. Again, we can help with this, but really what I'm telling everybody here, the best thing to do is start talking to us early and talk about what do you do in the event of a cyber event? Okay. Do I know my incident recovery team? Okay. Do I have a retainer? Did something happen to where thousands and thousands of companies are affected and I can't get a cyber company to get on and start doing incident response because the need is overwhelming. Okay. We got to have that planned out. Okay. The other issue we run into is that cyber insurance companies generally require that a certain IR firm or certain ones are leveraged in the event that there's an issue. If you're at 3 in the morning on a Saturday and you call me and you don't know who that is, and we call in an IR company and they start getting you back up and running and they're doing all the investigation, and then Monday morning your CFO shows up and says, hey, I know you just spent $60,000 over the weekend, but our cyber insurance company won't pay for that because they're not on the supported list. Okay. You still have to pay that bill. And 60K could be on the very low end for that. You want your cyber insurance company to be able to pay. So make sure you understand what cyber insurance is requiring, who they are, have those contacts, preferably have an IR retainer in place. Okay. Along those same lines, you can apply the same strategy to a third party issue as well as a natural disaster. Okay. Who do I need to contact? Who's going to be available? Alternative strategies, right? Legal protections. So if that SaaS provider goes away for 2 weeks, can I sue? What are my options? Like, how do I keep my reputation intact? How do I continue to do business? Those are all things that can be put into an incident response plan early before an event happens. So, with that, I know I just threw a lot of info at you. Okay. But I'm hoping what that shows you is that there's a lot of areas. Don't try to bite that whole elephant in one bite, right? Let's talk about certain pieces. If you don't have a business impact analysis, you don't have a plan, that's a great place to start. You can do cyber awareness assessments to get you started on that plan. You can bring organizations in to do a plan. All those things are there. Okay. How that all starts, reach out to us. And we have some contact info at the end of this. Our website's available to you. I'm going to turn this back over to Courtney, but just know, reach over to us. We'll help you with that. We'll guide you on your journey and then go from there. So with that, I appreciate your time. Courtney, I'm going to let you wrap us up here.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Darren. That was super valuable, and I hope you guys were able to take some golden nuggets of wisdom about that or out from that. And as he mentioned, there's a few different ways you can engage with us. Obviously, you can always look at our website, vcomsolutions.com, and there's a way to contact us on there. Or we will provide our contact info at the end here. In quick wrap up as well, just wanted to let you know you're in good hands and in good company. So again, working in the legal vertical is something vCom has been doing for a long, long time. And hopefully you saw that for yourself listening to Darrin today, right? He has experience working with other legal customers. This is just kind of a quick plug of a few other and some other quotes from them about how we've been able to work with them and support them and help them with their environment, saving them time, saving them money, and really just making their lives easier. Um, and on top of that, we also have a whole list of a ton of other legal companies that we have worked with in our history of, being vCom and that you can be in good company with as well. As he mentioned, here's our contact information. So if you do want to learn more or follow up with either one of us individually, you can go ahead and take a quick snapshot of that. Or as I mentioned, reach out on vcomsolutions.com. We are here for you. Happy to continue working with you if you have any other questions about this that you maybe think about later or failed to throw into the chat. We are here to support and hope that you found some value today. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. And one quick last check of the chat. It doesn't look like we have anything else going on, so we can give you a few minutes back in your day. Appreciate your time and your engagement.
Yeah, and we'll hang out here for a few more minutes if you have any questions you want to chat about. But I know cyber is not always the one we want to publicly air our laundry with often. So if you want to have a private consultation, please let us know, and we're happy to let you know who the best contact is for you. So really appreciate your time. Thank you.